New details in the assassination attempt on the former president. A source telling Fox Trump's would-be assassin researched mass shooter Ethan Crumbley and also major depressive disorder before carrying out his attack. So what goes into the investigation of his motives? Here to discuss is former FBI domestic terrorism investigator Ashton Packe. Ashton, thanks for being here. Forgive our skepticism on the FBI at this point and the way they would conduct what they withhold and what they provide. But based on what we know so far and these most recent disclosures, we've heard him Googling, Trump and Biden in different events. We know that. These are new. He was maybe aware of his own disorder or a disorder he thought he might have. But then also the idea that everything else that we're reporting on this morning, that he was looking into another mass shooter. So what do you think about this?
Well, thanks for having me back, everyone. I think that a lot of these assailants that carry out these attacks, what we've seen in the past in some of the investigations and the after-action reports, we've seen that they've researched other assailants, other shooters that have conducted some kind of attack in the past. So it doesn't really surprise me. I think ultimately the FBI will peel back the onion on who the subject was. Was there any kind of guided part on behalf of a nation state or a domestic terrorist or a foreign terrorist organization? If it starts to appear that he's a lone individual who was out just doing his own thing, then I think, yes, the mental illness part of it will come into play. But now I think it'll start to shift away from the idea that he was guided by somebody and ultimately was doing this on his own. Did he have some sort of a grievance? And why did he carry out this attack? I think ultimately behavioral assessment unit will start to delve into who he was as a person. The searches on other shooters are not uncommon. We have seen that in the past. And of course, mental illness is a major factor in the United States today. A lot of folks are suffering from mental illness. We'll have to find out, the investigation will have to find out, was he previously diagnosed with some kind of a mental illness? And if not, they'll have to do some kind of a psychological autopsy since he's no longer around to answer questions to find out what kind of mental illness he may be suffering from.
Mm-hmm. We're going to want those answers. It may take time, but the longer it takes, the more skepticism it engenders. So I hope they're as thorough as possible, as quickly as possible. Well, I want to move to what's happening tomorrow, though, because the U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle is testifying before the House Oversight Committee. It'll be the first chance she makes really any public remarks at all. What do you want asked? What do you want to know?
Well, how did this get to where how did this even happen? How did this attack even occur? Having worked executive protection and having been a part of the helping with presidential visits to the location where I'm at here in Southern Nevada, you always want to stay in the protector world, what we call left of bang. We want to stay in that proactive intelligence gathering mode where we're trying to prevent attacks. You don't want this to even happen. I mean, once the worst happened and President Trump had been hit, you could see the reaction by the agents and the training kicking in. But that is unacceptable. And the fact that this should have never occurred in the first place, massive amounts of communication breakdown between the U.S. Secret Service and I think the local cops that were there. I am very eager to find out how this could have even happened, how those advanced teams and the counter surveillance teams that are so intrinsically a part of each rally, each place where the former president or the current president goes. How did this happen? It should never have happened. And we always want to stay left of bang in that world of gathering information. We had citizens reporting information that the subject was in the area. I've heard internet rumors that I don't know if they're true or not, but that law enforcement had contacted him. They saw him with some kind of a rangefinder. Maybe on the surface, somebody didn't think that was suspicious enough, but how he was able to crawl on top of a roof within several hundred yards of a former president and the front, the obvious contender for the Republican nomination at the time. I think a lot
Staggering.
Of questions have to be answered.
Yeah, it's gross negligence, communications failure, failure of imagination, just failure to be prudent, to withhold him from the stage. We've got a guy on a roof. We don't know what's going on. Let's wait 5 minutes, Mr. President. All those are failures, and she's got to answer for them. Ashton Packe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You got it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.